guys, it's Kevin again, and this is my review for the highly anticipated John Travolta film, Gotti. And there really isn't much of a plot to this movie, to be honest with you. It's basically just events in John Gotti's life, showing his, rise to power, kind of showing, how this had a negative effect on his son, and that's really all there is to say. So Gotti, this was a film that I actually wasn't dreading initially. I saw the trailer back in December when it was originally supposed to come out, and I thought this actually looked pretty good. I thought for sure this could be like a good comeback for Travolta, because I don't think he's a terrible actor. I think he picks really bad movies, but I don't think John Travolta is necessarily a really bad actor. You put him in the right role, he can actually be really damn good. I know people didn't like him on it, but American Crime Story, People vs. OJ, I thought he was really good on. Obviously, Pulp Fiction, Hairspray, those are roles that I really do love him in, and I thought this could be a good comeback for him. Now, then, of course, all the news articles came out, and Gotti was getting like a 0%. Everyone was saying it's like one of the worst movies of the decade that was unintentionally funny, so I immediately really wanted to seek out this movie. I almost didn't, though. We'll get to that a little bit later as to why I didn't, because of something else that came out, but unfortunately, that is the complete opposite when it comes to this film. Gotti is an awful movie that absolutely deserves all of the hatred that it really has been getting. But we're just getting started now, starting off with the cast. And the cast right off the bat, that is actually the thing that I was looking forward to in this movie, and they're not good. They're really awful, to be honest with you. The cast here, for the most part, are terrible. John Travolta, right off the bat, this is honestly baffling to me, because he has promoted this movie as his passion project, a film that has been in the works for a very long time, that he finally wants to get out, and from how he acts in this movie, that is the complete opposite here. You don't get the sense that he really is passionate about this at all. It feels like he's just going through the motions the whole film, and either in the film he is too over the top or he's too toned down. There are scenes where he's supposed to be just talking and he has this ridiculous Brooklyn accent, or there are moments where he's supposed to be really emotional and you just don't really feel that from him. The emotional scenes don't feel emotional. The scenes that are supposed to feel dramatic don't feel dramatic. The scenes that, you're supposed to feel good for Gotti, you really don't. I mean, Travolta just seemed like he really didn't want to be here. I don't really know what ended up happening, but something really got lost in translation, because I really did not get the sense that Travolta was nearly as passionate for this as he initially let on, and it's a huge disappointment, because I really do think this has sunk him to a new low. I thought for sure this could be a comeback film for him, but it really is the complete opposite, and I really don't think Travolta is going to have much of a career after this film at all. The rest of the cast here also sucks. Everyone here is awful. Stacy, Keach, I really did not think was too good. Kelly Preston is barely in the movie, but when she's here, she's laughably bad at points. There's one scene where you're supposed to feel all this emotion from her, and you just don't. It comes across as so flat, and I thought she was just awful here. Easily the worst, though, is Spencer LoFranco as Gotti's son. This kid is awful. Everything about him, he can't act to save his life. You never get the sense that he's as old as they're saying he is. Like, there are scenes where you're supposed to believe this guy's like a 30-year-old man with children, and you never really get that sense in the film. He looks pretty much the same throughout the whole movie, despite the little shades of, like, little strands of gray they try to put in his hair. Other than that, everyone else here is awful. I really don't have much to say about the cast. I thought everyone absolutely sucked, and it's easily some of the worst acting I have seen all year. Now let's get to the directing and the writing, because right off the bat with the directing, again, this is something that I was quite disappointed with when it comes to directing, because this is not necessarily from, it's not coming from a director that I don't respect. It's actually from this director, Kevin Connolly, who, if you know, he's done, like, he played the role on Entourage and things like that, so I really did not think his directing was going to be that bad. And really, just like Travolta's performance, it's incredibly confusing. The scenes they're supposed to feel, you're supposed to feel like Gotti is on this high, you just don't. And same with the scenes where he's supposed to feel on the low. The tone is just so messy. The film does not seem to know what it wants to be. And if anything, it's just trying to be like other mobster films, like Goodfellas or Godfather. There is a blatant reference to Goodfellas in this movie, and I was just like, oh, okay, so now you're referencing all the films that you ripped off. off. Okay, that makes sense. So, yeah, the directing is all over the place. It's awful. I hated basically everything about it. The writing is easily the problem with this movie. That is easily the main problem here, because like I said, when talking about the plot, there really isn't one. The whole movie is just events in John Gotti's life, and the writing is so weak in that regard. The whole movie is basically designed as for someone who knows basically everything you need to know about John Gotti. Like, the movie assumes that everyone knows everything about John Gotti, and they're just giving you a few bullet points, and that is not all how you should approach doing a biopic. I always say, you need to approach a biopic in a way where I know nothing about John Gotti. You have to act like this isn't someone that I know, and I don't know anything about him. He was around way before my time. So yeah, I knew absolutely nothing about John Gotti, and I walked away from this film still not really knowing anything. I mean, the film starts off, and already he is this highly powerful mob boss, and everyone really does respect him and things like that, and you just never really get the sense that he went through anything. There are scenes in the movie where you're really supposed to feel something and you just don't. Like, for example, and this is not a spoiler because there are no spoilers in this movie. Like I said, nothing really happens. It's just little events here and there. There is a scene in which we find out very early on in this film that John Gotti's other son got hit by a car. And you're supposed to feel this emotion. You're supposed to feel overcome. When Kelly Preston is crying, it's supposed to be this really effective scene, but we never really saw that family interact. We never really saw the negative effect it had on this character. So the fact they just go and kill him off, and this is only like 20 or 30 minutes into the movie, it feels very hollow, and that's really how this entire film feels. It feels very emotionally hollow. I really did not feel connected to anything that was going on, and that is absolutely the biggest problem with this movie. The writing is just a mess. We're going in between these three different timelines. One of them is like 1970s, the other one is like middle-aged Gotti, and then the third one is a very old Gotti and him trying to get his son out of prison because he's been convicted for something, and him trying to prove his innocence. And none of these stories are particularly interesting because they're all just so confusing. We don't know what led his son to go to jail. We don't know what led Gotti, we don't know what led his son down a dark path. I kept forgetting which timeline we were in because the movie does not do a good job of really focusing on it. It rushes through basically everything, so you never really get the most mileage out of anything. I've heard a lot of people compare this movie to The Snowman. Honestly, it's a very apt comparison because this is a story that on paper could have worked very well, but someone messed it up, and I don't really know who is responsible for it, but the writing, it's atrocious, it's awful, and it sucks because I do think it could have been really good, but unfortunately the writing is just really messy in that regard. Also, the other big thing with the writing, though, is that this film does not try to portray Gotti as this horrible person, this flawed hero. They actually try to get you to sympathize with this family and be like, oh, they're on the right side of things. Oh, John Gotti was misunderstood. Oh, John Gotti Jr. wasn't as bad. And the thing is, that would be fine if there was something in the film that justified that gave us a reason to care about this family, and there's just not. The whole film, you don't really see anything going on where, oh, you're supposed to feel for them, or you see something that he's into. Like, there's a thing at the end of this movie where they talk about the I believe it was like the police officers or whatever that were convicting John Gotti Jr. and how they were detained, and you're supposed to feel this emotion like, oh, they got what they deserved and things like that, but I never really felt that. I felt like, oh, John Gotti Jr., he was a terrible person, he really was a very misguided kid, and he absolutely should have gone to jail, and the only reason he didn't is because of the timing and things like that. So, yeah, that also utterly fails. I really don't know what they were trying to do there, and it's fine for you to portray them as a flawed hero, but they actually try to portray them as like these heroes and like the right people, and that is not at all how you should go about a film like this. And I think, again, that was just completely the wrong way to do it. Really, every wrong choice you can think of is pretty much scattered throughout this movie. The cinematography in this film, it's alright, I guess. It's nothing really that bad. It's one of the only things in the movie that's not that bad, but yeah. The score, on the other hand, holy shit, this score. This entire score, if you don't know, is done by Pitbull. Yes, Pitbull of all people, because that is totally the person who should be scoring a movie like this, and as expected, it's atrocious. It's as bad as you can imagine it to be. there's so many points in the film where we'll just hear like this rap music and it has no bearing because it's supposed to take place in like the 70s and things like that, and also the songs they choose don't really fit anything whatsoever. They don't have to do with anything that's really going on. So yeah, everything about it is just so arbitrary. Anytime they played like a rap song, I was honestly dying of laughter, especially the credits. You leave this movie, you're gonna hear like a Pitbull song, and the fact that they actually think that Pitbull is a worthy enough composer to be nominated for Best Score is in itself hilarious, and I cannot believe that they actually thought that that was actually a good idea to incorporate fucking Pitbull music in Gotti. It's one of the strangest choices I have seen since when The Great Gatsby decided to incorporate modern music in 2013. At least that had some sort of meaning, like they were going for something. This, I have no idea what they were going for. I don't know why they included this. There's no reason for it to be there, and it just does not work at all. I hated everything about the score. Like I said, the editing's a mess. It really is all over the place. The movie really has no focus whatsoever, and it keeps going back and forth between these three timelines, none of which are really that interesting, and I really was not a fan of them at all. So yeah, like I said, this movie sucks. It's as bad as everyone has said it is. There are there are little morsels of a good movie here and there. There are some scenes where I'm like, okay, that can work. Maybe that can work in a better movie, but it's just simply not here. The whole movie is such a mess. Everyone really does not feel like, everyone is either too over the top or they're too toned down. There's a lot of miscastings here, and like I said, I think this has really sunk Travolta's career, unfortunately, to a new low. The cinematography, I suppose, is nice, but there really is not much else to like about this movie. This is easily one of the worst films of the entire year, and I'm definitely going to give Gotti overall a D-. So that's really it for the movie review portion of this video, but that's not really why I did this video in the first place, because if I just hated this movie, I would just talk about it in the catch-up review, and that would have been the end of it, because I just did not have a lot to say. However, what I do have a lot to say about is the marketing that has been going on in this film, and that's really what the rest of this video is going to concern of, is me talking about this marketing, because as I already alluded to, I almost boycotted this movie. I really was not planning on seeing it. I was originally going to make a video on why I am boycotting Gotti, why I refuse to see Gotti, but it got leaked online. I don't like admitting this, but yes, it got leaked online. My friends wanted to watch it. I watched it with them. And yeah, so if I were to make this video, I would have been a complete hypocrite, and I would have been, disingenuous to what actually happens. But there really is no getting around it. The marketing for this film has been some of the most appalling, some of the most manipulative, and some of the most offensive that I have seen in a very long time. And nothing about this marketing, if you guys are thinking, oh, this is tongue-in-cheek, and oh, they're trying to go with the tone of the movie, that is not at all what they're going for. If you guys don't know, basically what they are saying is that, oh, don't listen to the critics of this movie, don't listen to people who gave the movie a 0%, they don't know what they're talking about, they go into movies just to bash it. You want to listen to the real fans of this movie, don't listen to the critics and things like that. So basically what they're trying to say is that critics are just hack frauds that are just there because they want to give their negative views on a film, and that they want to just bash this movie, they just want to bash this movie as much as they possibly can, and they don't want to give it any sort of benefit of the doubt. They just want to bash it like it's the worst thing ever, and that's the only reason that there are critics around, when that is absolutely not the case. And look, I'm going to get very passionate in this part of the video. If you guys don't want to listen to this, just click away, because I have a lot to say about this. First of all, right off the bat, just this whole idea, to me at least, is incredibly insulting. It's not just offensive, but it really is insulting to me as a reviewer. For someone who has put 7 years of their lives into doing movie reviews, and, for the better part of their life has been doing this constantly. They've been seeing all these movies, especially this year. I've tried to see every fucking movie that I possibly can, and then something like this comes out. Yeah, that upsets me, and yeah, it really does disturb me that someone actually thinks that, because here's the thing, people are going to read this, and they're going to take that to heart. They're going to think, oh yeah, they're right, I shouldn't be listening to any of the critics right now, And let me just tell you, that is not at all the case. In fact, people who are critics are not just critics because they want to bash a movie. They're critics because they fucking love movies. That's why I do what I do. I've done all of this because I love movies. I love talking about film. I love talking about the technical aspects of film. I love talking about performances. I love just everything when it comes to talking about a really great film. When I see a great movie, I can't wait to talk about it. This movie, if you remember, like I said, I wasn't initially dreading. So, yeah, people who are critics because they love movies. It is not the other way around. And I don't know what is so hard for them to understand about that. And honestly, it really is, like I said, very insulting, but also very demeaning to anyone who ever wanted to become a critic. Imagine if someone were to watch, were to read this article and watch these videos and see the Gotti Twitter and they see that, oh, critics don't matter, and someone has aspired all of their life to become a movie critic or a movie reviewer, and this is something that they really wanted to do. They're then going to read that article and think that their opinion doesn't matter and think that what they're doing has no bearing on anything. And that is one of the worst things that you can do as a human being. There is nothing worse for anyone than to say what you do does not matter and that your work is meaningless. I mean, it's about as bad as when you have, like, a painter and that this is just a random comparison. Like, you have an artist and they've made this amazing painting and, you know, they've worked so hard and they've dedicated all of their years to it, and you just tell them, oh, your art is meaningless. It has nothing to do with anything, and that your art is just, you know, it's abstract, it's not very good. That is one of the worst things you can say to anyone, because yeah, it does matter. I'm just going to tell you right now, if you are a movie reviewer and you're watching this video, do not think that you have to refrain from talking about this movie. Do not think that your work does not matter, because it absolutely does. In fact, that is our job as a movie reviewer. It's our job to recommend a film and give it the most accurate description possible. Why am I hard on this movie? Well, yeah, sort of it is because of this marketing, but also because it's really awful, and I'm giving you guys as accurate of a description as I possibly can as to why you should or should not see it. That is one of the basic rules of becoming a movie critic, and again, when someone reads this, they're gonna try to limit their thoughts in this movie, and don't do that. You absolutely should just destroy this film. The fact that they actually think that, and have the audacity to go after movie critics like this and think this is a good thing to do, yeah, it really does upset me. And yes, you guys absolutely should be offended. You should be enraged about this, and definitely should not give this film the benefit of the doubt. I always say you should with a movie, but this is not a film you should do that with, because it comes from such negativity, and it really is quite surprising that the people who are saying this are the people who are basically the main sort of, you know, they're the people who are trying to get, you know, adolescents and older, you know, younger audiences to see indie films. Because if you don't know, MoviePass did in fact back this film. I myself am a consumer of MoviePass. I think it's a really great tool to have. But when things like this come out, yeah, I can see why people are very on the fence about using MoviePass, because this is just awful. The fact that they actually thought that this was a good idea, and the fact that they actually thought that people would take this seriously, and that they can just go out and, you know, abuse movie critics and tell us that our work is pointless and that our work doesn't matter. Yeah, I take great offense to that, and yes, it really does have a very negative effect on me. And again, I just think it's really sad that anyone would read this and think that their work does not matter. Just know that your creativity is very important, and anyone in any job, in any line of work, really does matter. Don't let anyone tell you otherwise. I have had multiple people tell me that, oh, you know, there's this very old myth that I've always hated, that people are just movie critics because they can't make movies themselves, and that is not at all the case. Some people just enjoy what they do, and in fact, that's not the case at all. I have a TV show that I have been working on for years now, and the only reason that I am not that committed to it is because I don't have the funding or the cast to really do anything about it right now. I can't commission a TV show right now because I'm busy. I have college, I have work. I can't just spend all this time doing it. So yeah, I do this because I really enjoy it. I am not at all doing this for the money. I am not at all doing this, because I just have nothing else to do. I do it because I enjoy it, and that is absolutely why you should do so. And yes, obviously, money is great. Yes, obviously, a following is great. But when it really does come down to it, you should do something because you enjoy it, and you shouldn't let anyone tell you otherwise because of it. You know, what you do really does matter. It does, in fact, have meaning, and don't let these corporate assholes like the people working at Gotti tell you otherwise, because that is absolutely not the case. Either way, guys, that's it for this video. I really have nothing else to say about this topic. I was, like I said, appalled by what I really read. It's just some of the most, I think, disingenuous marketing I've seen in a while. Like, they could have easily been a lot more nicer about it. Like, they could have just said something in the when, you know, they could have said something like, see the movie that is shocking everyone. Like, they could have done something where they're, like it's very self-aware, but there's a difference between self-aware and mean-spirited, and this really is riding the line between those two things, and it's definitely falling more into the latter rather than the former, and that's really what did upset me about this film. But that's really it of this portion of the video of why I really was going to boycott Gotti at first and why I initially refused to see it. And really, that's up to you. See it, don't see it. Either way, don't support these guys. They clearly don't know what a real movie critic is. Don't let them stop you. If you have a dream, just go for it. If you want to be a movie reviewer, be a movie reviewer. And don't let anyone tell you otherwise. That's it for this video. Hope you guys enjoyed. See you guys in my next video, and we'll see you guys for that. Okay, bye.